Educator Award, the IDRA Career Award, MIT's Kevin Lynch Award, and the Alumnus of the Year Award from North Carolina State. A prolific author, Randy's books include Neighborhood Space, The Meaning of Gardens, and Design for Ecological Democracy. With his wife and partner, Marcia McNally, the landscape architect and educator, Randy has worked with communities to design remarkable public parks and gathering spaces. In fact, Randy and Marcia designed my all-time favorite park in Southern California. The name of it is Augustus Hawkins Natural Park. Set in the central part, in the grittiest part of South Central Los Angeles on a former brownfield site, Augustus Hawkins is a small island of native coastal chaparral, designed as a link between the residents of this low-income community and the larger bioregion in which they live. The park attracts neighbors to enter, explore, and smell the aromatic sage plants, and see some of the 35 species of native birds that now call this park home. Augustus Hawkins is a model not only for brilliant and engaged landscape architecture, but also how to connect urban residents to their natural world. And this, I think, is one of the important hallmarks of Randy Hester's practice. Please join me in giving him a very warm welcome. Thank you.
To the undergraduates, to the families and friends. We know that Worcester Hall is different. And in fact, the new strategic plan for our college manifests that. It says, embrace the Berkeley difference. Now, some argued, I'm told, that it should not say embrace the Berkeley difference, but rather own the Berkeley difference. What does this mean? To embrace, to own, to join, to be true to take up eagerly as a social cause, to accept the consequences of and responsibility for, to be proud of, to celebrate, to hug. All assembled here today, graduates, parents, family, and friends, faculty, staff, and alums, we are all a part of the Berkeley difference. And we are here today to celebrate that difference, that passage with joy and anticipation. We celebrate the class of 2013 with the Berkeley attitude. First, to parents, grandparents, favorite aunts, and other relatives, you likely first observed the Berkeley difference in each of these graduates long before we did as faculty. In fact, probably before elementary school, you noticed some unusual characteristics. They may have been impossibly headstrong, passionate, a poetic dreamer, or dangerously creative. They may have learned to draw before they could walk or talk. They may have asked very difficult, in fact, impossible questions. They may have worked endlessly on a project, but only if it challenged them. They may have constantly made wrong turns because even before elementary school, they were already seeking paths untraveled. They may have been too smart for their own good, and they may have been extreme. Well, family and friends, you made them. And for better or worse, you own the Berkeley difference. And we thank you for it. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the class of 2013. So what makes our college and these graduates different? Well, for starters, we might say that you can gain the most wisdom from listening to the student speakers. Thank you both. What distinguishes Berkeley's College of Environmental Design from the hundreds of other schools of planning, architecture, and landscape? First, this college was created to break boundaries, to go beyond disciplinary barriers. Worcester Hall brought us together under one roof to be a family of mutual respect, to fight like cats and dogs, and to learn from each other. And for the time I was here, it delivered every day. Science and intuition, oil and vinegar, break rules, act holistically, embrace oppositions. You learn this if you take classes with Chip Sullivan and Carolina Reed at the same time. This spirit is expressed most recently in the initiative to integrate arts and humanities with environmental design, and I believe the first ever truly research methods course across disciplines of the university. Only first-class minds and hearts are inspired by paradox, can deal with the many mutually exclusive forces at once. Is that my grandson? And instead of simple-mindedly choosing one over the other or compromising all, the first-class mind and heart can maximize the benefits of the various competing oppositions. Let me repeat that. It's a very long sentence. It's a truly Berkeley sentence. Only first-class minds and hearts are inspired by paradox, can deal with many mutually exclusive forces at once, and maximize the benefits of the competing oppositions. That makes Berkeley graduates extraordinary. You think poetically and systematically at the same time. You are prophets and practical. You are dreamers and makers. You combine order and opposition simultaneously. Graduates, this Berkeley difference you now own. Second, the second Berkeley difference is that each student at Worcester is encouraged to find his or her own passion and act on it. You can gain dazzling theory and essential skills, but you must make them your own. You must own your own Berkeley difference. You either sink or swim in Worcester, and all of you obviously knew how to swim, often against the tide. You became experts in some aspects and healthy generalists in others. You made sense of a complex world, synthesized it, and gave it fresh form. But above all, you did it to your own internal drums. Berkeley is strongest when it moves to the beat of its internal drum, when it owns its own values, when it seeks no status, when it is true to itself. Our truth is that social factors most inspire environmental change. Our core concern is to create places that support humanity's most noble values. That continues to be our great contribution to the world. That distinguishes all of you graduates today. Own and embrace that difference. Third, such individualism often runs amok. Stars overheat, flash, and burn, and some say contribute to global warming. But the greatest stars are remembered for the constellations they keep. Polaris is only a small part of the handle of the Little Dipper. Berkeley is great because it has a singular dedication to simultaneously the individual and community. Stardom gives us freedom. Community gives us responsibility. I wish that Patrick Henry had inspired us differently. I wish that he had said, I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty and responsibility, or give me death. What a different world we would live in. This does not cast self versus other, but rather makes self whole. 50 years ago, the social and ecological corollary of this came from a Birmingham jail. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. As Dean Walsh said, the Landscape Architecture and Environmental Planning Department celebrates its 100th birthday this year as one of the most decorated programs in the world, because people like Punk Vaughn, Joe McBride, Louise Mozingo have created a single garment of destiny in spite of the many would-be stars. Tocqueville described us at our best. We are powerless unless we learn to voluntarily help one another embrace that Berkeley difference. Fourth, Worcester thrives on tolerance. Tolerance for difference, be it racial identity or sexual preference, religious belief, design, approach, or place of origin. Latina from Mango Street, Mecca, or 1,000 moons over 1,000 Chinese rivers. We tolerate sleeping under one's desk or under the blue couch, or staring at a computer screen for 72 hours nonstop. Sometimes, but not often, we tolerate bathroom graffiti. There are limits to tolerance. We will not tolerate a society that excludes 10% of its people from housing. We will not tolerate that. We will not tolerate waste. We will not tolerate another oil war. We will not tolerate the extinction of species or cultures. We will not tolerate corporate architecture fueled by virtual capital, because we know that place-based capital creates more splendid places and enriches our cities. We will not tolerate a car-addicted world. We will not tolerate marriage for some, but not for others. We will not tolerate a state that has cut funding for public higher education in half since the time I first came to teach at Berkeley. We will not tolerate cynicism or nihilism. We will not tolerate environmental justice. Tomorrow requires more nuanced thinking. Far more nuanced thinking than in my day. There have to be different approaches to address these that we will not tolerate. And Berkeley will show the way. We must all own this Berkeley difference. Fifth and finally, the Berkeley difference gives us the courage to implement visionary futures. All of you graduating today have the skills to create visionary futures. You have skills in policy making and working drawings and all sorts of things in between. All of you in the class of 2013, I am sure you possess vision and skills, and I hope the courage of your convictions. You also need political savvy that ivory towers seldom convey. You have to practice courage by heeding Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "Do one thing every day that scares you." Just as exercise strengthens our hearts and bodies, anarchist calisthenics break minor laws every day as practice for the time that you will have to break major laws to achieve the goals that will create a just society. Only then will we be fearless enough to face the scorn of the naysayers and the penalties for disobedience, and also to escape those who would charge that we are just cheesy to even believe these things. Every design or planning action is a political act, sometimes requiring cooperation, sometimes requiring us to stand firm, sometimes to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, sometimes to stand up alone. Nearly 100 years ago, one of our first faculty, Bernard Maybeck, urged us to stand up, to stand on tippy-toe and grasp what we may of the undiscovered beauty, the divine excellence of the Berkeley difference. I would now ask all of you, parents, friends, family, other supporters of the class of 2013, please stand up if you would. Let's do it. Please stand on tiptoes to grasp the class of 2013. Today, all of you in the class of 2013 take full ownership of the blessings and the challenges of the Berkeley difference.
Thank you, Randy. That was inspiring and challenging. Another hallmark of the Berkeley difference.